Yep. It's just a second.
Sure.
Just a second.
Sure.
Okay, I think we're good.
All right. We will call the Artscape leadership group to order and take a quick roll call.
Rebecca Grill, she's
Used
not here. Mayor Devine,
here.
John Stiebel.
Here.
All right, that's a quorum.
Okay. And then we will move to item C, which is the item one. I'm sorry, part C, item 1 is the resolution to select a mural for the property at 7400 West Greenfield. Now I think Steve, take it away if you have anything.
Okay, sure. So, hi everybody. I am Stacy Williams-Ung. I'm the founder of Wallpapered City. Depending on how your screen is laid out, it might be different than mine. Katie, who's this just to next to me on my screen anyway, is also from Wallpapered City. She is our head of operations. I'm the founder. So I'm going to share my screen and show you all in just a second, but let me give you some background context. The just very brief PowerPoint that we use to present Thomas Evans' mural concept to our brand new jury. And I'll also be in the PowerPoint, it shows who the jury is, which would answer anyone's questions if they wanted to know about that. So this is in regards to the West Allis Living Streets project, the newly dubbed mural corridor that we're doing in downtown West Allis. And the 4 walls that we chose, of the 4 walls, the Lamplight Inn is the most difficult to access. It's, you don't actually begin painting until the 3rd story. It's 5-story expanse of painting wall upwards. And in short, when we were having our discussions with the city about the open call for artists, one of the things that came up, which I tell all my clients, is Milwaukee is an emerging mural city. We have some amazing artistic talent here, no doubt. Hell, I'm an artist that lives here, so I would slap anyone who said we didn't have artistic talent in Milwaukee. But what we don't have is a lot of people, a large talent pool of people who can get up on a cherry picker lift, operate the equipment, and execute a lift at that size. I'm not saying there's no one, but there's fewer than 7. And so that really reduced our pool of artists in terms of whenever we do an open call for artists, you do get a lot of amateurs, and you can only choose from the people who apply. And a lot of people think they can do a wall like that, but then they don't realize what's involved. And so my recommendation, just based on past experience, was due to the nature of the difficulty of this wall and the prominence of this wall, we should invite a professional artist who's done this before, who has a proven track record. The city of West Allis agreed, and so we singled out this wall to be a private invitation and left the other 3 walls, which are also still very beautiful and very big, but they're easier to access. We left those to be call for artists. So our jury has only just been called. The jury will be taking a lot more time choosing from the pool of submissions that we get from the open call for artists. And we've already gotten several dozen applicants. They usually come in the night before, so I have really good feeling that we're gonna have a lot of applicants for the other 3 walls. The way that Thomas Evans was chosen for the Lamplight building was Wallpapered City. We, as part of our service to the city, researched artists from our database who we feel are, and when I say our database, we're not an agency. We don't formally represent people. We just make it our job to stay abreast of street art all around the country. So we tapped into our database and we put together a selection of, 10 or so artists. In fact, I think we narrowed it down to 7 or 8 to make it easier. And we felt like any of those artists could have been excellent choices. We presented them to the core committee at the City of West Allis, and we all voted, and it was tough. And then because they're all good. But then we chose Thomas Evans, ultimately just because he just does fantastic work. He's a rising star. He's gotten a lot of national press. And yeah, so without further ado, if anybody has any questions now, I could just launch into this quick presentation with visuals. Okay, here we go. So this PowerPoint was not created for this meeting. This is, we're reusing the same one that we showed to the jury. We've already introduced Katie and myself. The jury members for our 5-person jury are the mayor, Jenny, who is present at this meeting. Keith King is the owner of a gallery in West Allis, so we thought it'd be nice to have somebody who's kind of in the art world in the community. Erica Ortiz also is active in the art community in West Allis. And then, of course, Diane Einigner, who's the ED of the downtown bid. So whenever we choose a jury, we try and make it pretty tight. We don't want it to be, 30 people having a discussion because it's just too many opinions about art. But we don't want it to be too small so that it's not, a good representation of the community. So it's always tough picking 5 or 7 or 9 people. We try and keep it around, an odd number to break a tie, but we want it to be, people who can really speak for the community and who have differing opinions. So we felt like this was a nice cross section. Also, what was I going to say? I had another thought and I forgot it. I'm just going to keep going. So WALS stands for West Allis Living Streets, which is kind of fun, WALS. 4 murals, 1 private artist, the install the week of July 1st. So we've had a couple of comments about this being a very rushed process. So I'm going to go ahead and address that. We have actually been working on this project since about Christmas time. So we've actually had a lot of time. So I feel like it's on me to apologize that this part of the project suddenly was hurry, 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 time is of the essence. The fundamental reason for that is that once we had chosen Thomas Evans and we approached him with the offer, the only week he was available is the week of July 1st. And he's going to paint that whole mural in 8 days, which is astonishing. Other artists would probably take 2 to 3 weeks on that. But he's squeezing us into his schedule. We knew he was available July 1st. And so we have scrambled to get the artist that we wanted. And so that's really the main reason this is suddenly so rushed. So my apologies. But I also have to thank the city because it's just been wonderful to see how everyone has snapped into action. We got our occupancy permit in less than a day. We've been able to get everyone to get together and meet. So thank you all for being so flexible on that. The current open call for the other 3 artists, just as an FYI, that call ends next week, ends on the 30th. It's been out for several weeks now. It's gotten some really good press. It's been on CBS 58 and some other outlets. We are going to meet tentatively the week of July 6th, just after the holiday, as a jury. And that's when we're going to slog through all those entries and we're going to choose the other 3. So the objectives, and this is what we present, we'll be presenting to the jury. Again, it really is probably more relevant when we're choosing the other 3. But it's something to be mindful of, is that our job here is to curate a collection of works, it should be a collection, singular, that will inspire and please the community, that will boost the image of West Allis to the world at large, and will create marketable destinations for visitors. So similar to some of the work we've done in other communities around town, like Bayview and Wauwatosa, we Wallpapered City has been tasked with helping you, the city of West Allis, put together the coolest possible mural destination in our area. And so we try and make it better each time. So the later you hire us, the better. So hopefully we'll be cooler than Tosa and cooler than Bayview. Because when people have something to do on a Saturday, we want them to come to West Allis to see our murals. So the jury is therefore encouraged to vote on behalf of the community as a representative and trying to push themselves beyond personal aesthetic preferences. The worst thing you can get in a jury meeting is for people to be like, well, I don't like blue and I'm not into abstract art and stuff like that. And so we try also, when we choose our jury members, we try and get people who we feel have a real sensitivity to what their community members like. and what they think will have the widest appeal and meet these objectives, even if it's something you might not hang in your own living room. So I know I've put up a lot of murals I would not hang up in my living room, but people love them. So job well done. I'm going to just launch into showing you some representative work from Thomas Evans that got us excited about his style. He is fundamentally a portrait artist. He does these very distinctive portraits that are, you know, always portraits of ordinary people. They could be anyone. He taps a lot from friends and family, or for people that, you know, he meets in his life that he thinks have striking faces. And so rather than do a portrait of a famous person, you're doing a portrait of an ordinary person who is a universal. So, you know, this boy could be any boy. In fact, I'm not even sure if it's a boy or a girl. And then there's typically these beautiful abstract elements that go along with it. Like in this case, the plants and the moon. With this one, we have a woman looking up to the sky. Again, the skin tones are always these really vibrant rainbow colors, which I think everyone on our initial, I won't say jury, but committee really responded to. This one I think is an indoor mural. Looks like it's in a restaurant or something. I've seen a lot of his murals that incorporate roses as a background. I don't know if we're going to get roses in our background, maybe not, but a lot of Detour's murals feature a figure that's positioned over a field of roses, which is pretty cool. This one is very large. We saw several in his portfolio that indicated he could handle a really large assignment. I've actually met Thomas Evans in person when I went to Denver years ago to learn more about their mural arts program. There he is on the right in front of a piece that he's done. That's a small piece in Denver that's over one of those roll top covers for a shop. But when I met him, he was doing this mural, which there are no cars in this picture to really show the scale of how big this thing is, but it's the size of a warehouse. It's a warehouse of some sort. And it is tremendously large. He was on a boom lift doing this. When I pulled my car over and went and introduced myself, I was like, I do murals in Milwaukee. Maybe we can bring you to Milwaukee one day. That was years ago. So I think this mural was painted probably, I think I went there in 2017, maybe. But it's huge. So we know he can handle scale and equipment. This one is probably closest in concept to the one we're doing. So we definitely wanted to include this, since the concept that he's doing includes a little boy as well. So this helps us to kind of imagine probably close enough to what he would probably do for us. So this is the mock-up that he's presented to us that our jury approved. It is Photoshop, just a photograph photoshopped onto the lamplight building to show us the scale that he and the positioning of how these figures will land. But it's a father and son portrait, and it's basically about family. It's about fatherhood. This is obviously not the color palette that he's going to use, because we know he doesn't use drab colors. But we talked to him. I've put in his paint order, so I know that he's going to be using quite a bit of like a turquoise and warm skin tones, like pinks and oranges and stuff in the faces. But there it is. So that's all I have. This is our last slide. So if I'd like to open it up to discussion and comments now.
Thanks for the slideshow. Any questions or discussion? And if there is, or please make sure you're unmuted.
Mayor Devine, if I may.
Yeah, Marty, go ahead.
So Marty Weigel, Alderman 2nd District here, live across the street. Stacy addressed a little bit about the quickness on it, and I just wanted to reiterate the questions from the community. It feels a little bit rushed. You know, you use terms like speak for the community. Diane Einechner, I don't know if everybody knows this or not, was really only brought into the loop last Monday on this. And the bid board had a meeting scheduled for other topics earlier this week, and it was discussed. And there was a lot of questions. I understand it's art, and you're right, Stacy, absolutely. You can't have more than a small group weigh in on it. It's just that it seems like this thing's working on the artist's schedule. And I think you admit that he's got, I mean, you said that he's got other jobs. And as you saw this morning, I mean, there's a couple other issues. So he's only got 8 days to do this. Is that correct, Stacy?
Yes. Yeah. That's all he wanted.
Okay. But I mean, you know, when Public Works does a project, they figure for weather, you know, and as you found out this morning, rain could come through.
Mhm.
And I'd hate to see this. I mean, what happens if it's half done because of the weather? Because it can rain any day here, and especially in July. And then I have one more question: is so does he have an actual sketch of what he's going to do, of what he has in mind, or so this is all we know is what is this photo, and then and you said you've ordered the paints. He doesn't work off of a sketch that is going to be seen before it's approved and started. I mean, it's been approved, it's starting, I get that.
Yeah. I'm happy to address that. So I'm a muralist as well. And that's how I got into this business. And he is, this is the sketch. It's a very realistic photo, and we've seen his portfolio, and he's extremely consistent. So when you get to a certain echelon in performing, it's like asking Elton John to do an audition before he comes. Like, we know what Elton John's songs sound like. So it's when you get to this level, that's the best analogy I can give, with artists at the level of a personal commission, where it's a private invitation versus responding to a call. You look at their representative art, and his representative art is very, very consistent. He hits portraits at a very realistic level. These in many of the pictures, you even see the subject standing in front of them. So, I mean, here we go, is a great example. He knows how to paint from a photo and make it look like the people. And since this isn't a specific portrait, we don't really need it to resemble the people, but I think we all have a really good idea of what he's doing. If we did, there are clients who demand to have them paint it in advance on a canvas so they can see the painting before it goes on the building. That usually costs an awful lot more, because you're actually commissioning 2 works of art at that point. Okay. So he's shown us what he's going to paint. So we're doing it this way, which is the traditional way.
The choice of the artist really drove what the art's going to be.
Yeah, really. We liked the idea of, and I say we because I really was just facilitating, but I was definitely in on the discussions. And the committee that chose Thomas Evans over some of the other artists that were presented, we tried to present a wide berth of different styles, abstract, cartoony stuff, nature stuff, and
but the committee that chose the artist was really 3 people.
I believe it was more than that. And they chose it based on the idea of having a portrait artist, because this was something vibrant, and having figures is pretty rare in our region. We don't have a lot of artists. I mean, Mauricio Ramirez, I would argue, is starting to do more figure, but we don't have a lot of monumental portraits in the Milwaukee area. And so we're looking for uniqueness. So just to have another painting of flowers, for example, we already have flowers downtown in several places, to try and have a mural that really stands out and can really belong to West Allis. So we were definitely drawn to the idea of getting a portrait guy.
Okay, then a couple more things. You and I spoke this morning during the power failure, and I brought up the question as far as maintenance and life cycle on mural, and you told me it's your understanding the city's responsible for maintenance on it in the future, if it needs to be touched up or if there's any issues with it. I guess I did, as an elected official, I didn't understand that here.
I'd love to speak to that. So there is, in any of the contracts that Wallpapered City does, when we've worked with, say, the East Side bid on Black Cat Alley, which we continue to do, and same thing with City of Wauwatosa, we try and look for probable places where we could dip into a budget in the future, but without having to actually commit to a budget for now, because the bottom line is murals don't really require maintenance. They just slowly fade over time and then they're gone. That's the maintenance, unless it gets hit by lightning or something like that, which is such a rare occurrence as not to be worth discussing. So the only maintenance we are going to have to deal with is what to do with it in 5 years' time when the contract is over. Now, what you and I talked about this morning, and I'll just repeat to everyone else, if it started to chip in a certain space, then yes, the city of West Allis owns this mural. Even though the Lamplight Inn owns the property, the city of West Allis owns the intellectual property of this mural and therefore are the custodians of it. But they're really, they, however you want to phrase this, because they're my client. It's not really me, but are only interested in this mural lasting for the 5 years of the contract. After that 5 years, the interest would then be, and I'll let Mayor Devine talk to this too, in probably putting another mural there or repainting it versus letting it just go to rot. I mean, because then it would be an eyesore. The idea here is to have a series of destinations that people find beautiful and want to come visit. And just like in an art gallery, you don't want that to get old. Once people have seen it 2 or 3 times, why would they come out and look at it again? It's just not a destination anymore. So when they first hired Wallpapered City, they explained, they meaning the city, that the commitment is to really change the perception of West Allis into a place where you can find really great arts and culture and send out that message. So, you know, the interest would then be not so much in maintaining a chip here and there, but having always knowing that this building could have a great work of art on it. So I know that was a long-winded answer, but that's how we approach it. In terms of dipping into a budget, there's usually, and I mentioned this to Marty this morning, you know, there can be an anti-graffiti budget, for example. There could be an ongoing Artscape budget for art projects where we could dip in. But honestly, getting up there just to touch up a little piece, you're not talking about huge investments here. You're talking about the hundreds of dollars, not the thousands. So it's really not, it's really negligible.
Okay, so we're looking at essentially a 5-year life cycle on this.
Correct.
And
in Chicago, they do 1 year. So there's some precedent for this. I study different mural programs around the country to see how they handle this, because there's no such thing as a permanent mural. I mean, we do have, for example, if you've driven on the 43 headed northbound and you see that mural by Reynaldo Hernandez at the North Avenue exit, that was done in the 80s. And it lasted it had a pretty good run, but then it was pretty significantly faded about 4 or 5 years ago. So they repainted it. Some murals, you know, weather the test of time pretty well, but at the end of the day, it's just house paint, and house paint doesn't last forever. So what we usually do is we ask the building owner to, in these projects, to agree to a year, agree to 3 years, agree to 5 years. And we can discuss it by municipality, but then that way everyone has a fixed idea of what to expect of this mural and expectations are set. And then we have to think about what we want to do at the end of that 5 years. What's our exit strategy?
And then one more question. The Plan Commission meeting earlier this week, I don't think the answer was there. So the building owners seen the concept also and signed off on it?
We wanted it to go through Artscape first. But
I see. Before it's going to go from this meeting to the building owner.
Yes, that's correct.
Is the building owner going to kind of feel compelled to agree with it since the artist is on the way already, or?
No, I would never want to pressure anyone like that. We did talk to the building owner before we had even chosen an artist, and this applies to all 4 building owners.
Yeah. That
we need things to happen in a certain order, so we need them to commit to the mural project before they've even seen the art. And God bless them, they were okay with that. So we already have building owners who are gung-ho about this project, who just want to be a part of they understand that whatever work of art goes up there, it makes it a destination, makes their building special. And so unless it's something that's like super offensive, you know, like a naked guy or something,
yeah.
You know, they're most likely going to agree. That's usually been our experience, because it's, you know, we usually find people who are excited about the project in the first place. However, it's not unprecedented for a building owner to just absolutely say no, even if it's not offensive. We had that happen in Wauwatosa. There was an image of a woman, and the woman-owned building owner, she was like, that looks too much like me. People are going to think that I painted a portrait of myself on the side of the building. I can't have that. It looks just like me. And so we ended up getting her a different mural. So it happens, but it's more rare in these situations.
And then it's my understanding the building recently changed hands. I assume, and I don't know what recently means. That's how it's described to me. I assume it wasn't in the last several months. You're actually working with the current building owner. Maybe Sean knows that.
Yes, we are. Yeah, we in fact, we didn't our agreement with them was just looking back, you know, June 4th.
Okay.
We've been in contact with them very recently.
Okay. I'm just bringing up the questions that were brought up at the bid meeting. So,
No, thank you.
okay, I think that's all I have. Thank you.
I didn't answer one of your questions, Marty. One of the things you mentioned was the concern about the 8-day time
Oh, the
span.
weather. Yeah.
Yeah, and the weather. Yeah, the weather's a little terrifying, but I will tell you, the more professional artists come in. Last year, we called this guy Ivan a human Epson printer. He painted that goldfish mural in Wauwatosa in 3 days flat. I couldn't believe it. I literally could not believe it. That's a big mural. It's not as big as this one, but he just flew through that. So, I mean, I would
Well,
take
hopefully he
2
won't have
weeks.
to rush.
Yeah,
Hopefully
I hope he doesn't have to rush, but
Yeah.
he said as long as he can work uninterrupted all day, every day, he believes he can do it in 6 days. And that's why he scheduled for
Okay.
nine
2 days.
nights. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you have it. I just want to make
Okay.
sure I addressed everything.
If you guys need anything, I'm right across the street.
We might need a beer.
Yeah, that too. Okay.
He has. Any other
Okay.
questions? If not, then I will, I guess I'll ask John to make well, I don't know if I can make the motion to approve as chair, but I will if I can.
I would be delighted to make a motion to approve.
Okay,
I think
then I'll second.
it celebrates family, celebrates cultural diversity. And with this artist, it should be an iconic artistic expression. So I'm very supportive.
Thank you. And then I'll second that motion. If there's any other discussion,
John, I tried to get him to paint a tie-dyed outfit on the father, but I lost that battle.
We all have those battles.
all right, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. And then I believe the next item was just kind of a discussion item on miscellaneous Artscape projects or opportunities.
It's just
Any
if anybody has anything to add as far as future art projects or putting something on the next agenda, anything of that nature.
I was just going to ask Stacy or Katie, Wallpapered City Katie, can you confirm if any of the artists that we previously viewed for this wall and the initial 7 or 8 that we looked at, have any of them submitted interest in the other 3 walls?
We did contact them. I don't know if they've submitted. Katie's been at the helm of submissions.
Okay.
You know?
I know Steven Teller from Florida. He's the one that did kind of like the flowers with like the 2-tone kind of thing happening. One guy, did he break his wrist? So he's out.
Oh yeah, that's
We
right.
did send it all to them, and a lot of them have responded saying thank you for sharing and that sort of thing. So
Okay.
We'll see. And some of them had more questions about the walls and that sort of thing. So
Okay. Thank you. Any other issues on or topics on the discussion for miscellaneous Artscape? All right, then that should conclude our business, and I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Move to adjourn.
I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks.